So, welcome to Meditation Mondays. I'm Daryl Gregory, and I am a certified meditation coach, teacher, and thanks for joining me here either on Substack or on YouTube. So, today I wrote a piece that I posted on Substack about finding the breath. And we hear that a lot in yoga. So, if you are a yoga practitioner, and you've been in class and the teacher says, find your breath. Do you know what to do immediately? Or is it confusing? Find my breath. Where did my breath go? It didn't go anywhere. Well, no, your breath didn't go anywhere, but your mind probably did. So when you're struggling with an asana, when you're struggling with sitting still, when you're struggling with your thoughts, those are challenging things that happen that distract your mind and take it away from focusing on the breath and using the breath as a tool to, help you with things that are difficult. So, for example, when we're going into a pose in yoga, when you're going into, something that is challenging for you, like a balancing pose, like Warrior Three, where you're balancing on one foot and you have your arms out. Um, if you lose the breath, um, I would most likely guess that you're going to lose your balance. But if you focus on the breath and use the breath to guide the pose, a lot of the times you won't lose your balance. You'll be able to integrate the two and achieve the asana, achieve your balance. And it's the same in meditation. So when we're sitting and we're trying to focus on the breath, but a thought comes along and hooks us, the mind is gone from the breath, and the breath is still there. But if we bring ourselves back to the breath, if we find the breath, then we find our present moment, we find our awareness, and yeah, and all is good. So, so if you think about how this works with the breath, the breath is that magic elixir that, or that magic glue that keeps everything together. You know, the cue is actually telling us that we need to urge the mind to refocus on the anchor. So, find your breath is not a cue for the breath; it's a cue for the mind. So when you hear that out in the yoga world or out in the meditation world, be a little bit more forgiving of the teacher and say, yes, indeed, I know what that means. Excuse me, and come back to the breath. You're actually finding the mind, right? But how do you find the mind? That gets a little tricky. All right, you guys ready to sit? I'm going to ring the bell 3 times and we will sit together for 15 minutes. Um, I'm getting my timer because it has a nice bell and it's also a timer. so, um, so let's go over our guidelines for sitting. First thing we do is we find a comfortable but engaged seat. So I'm sitting in a chair and I'm sitting with my back away from the chair. I'm not leaning back like that. My feet are flat on the floor. My palms are face down on my knees. You could use a mudra if you are familiar with that. And then the spine is long, neck is long, crown of the head is going towards the ceiling, chin is slightly dipped, and I'm looking about 8 feet in front of me. Next thing we do is we find the breath. Oh, we just talked about that. So we find the breath. And we find the breath right here at the tip of our nose. We find it coming in and going out. And that's where we put our mind. We put our mind on that in and out, the inhale and the exhale, the long exhale. And we also put it on the pause, the gap, where we inhale, gap, exhale, gap. There has to be that switch in direction, right? And there's that gap of awareness, gap of present moment. Next thing we do is when we find ourselves being taken by a thought or following thoughts or having too many thoughts at the same time, we notice them and we come back to the breath. Okay? And that's the practice. That's the practice right there. Coming back to the breath, finding the breath. Now, when I do Zoom meditation practices, I don't like looking at the grid with all the faces there and the teacher. So I usually turn my seat going this way. You're more than welcome to stare at my face, but yeah, I turn my face elsewhere. All right. So let us please find our seats. Find your breath. And when you notice thoughts, come back to your breath. Taking a deep breath through the nose. And sigh it out through the mouth. Bring some movement to your fingers, your toes. Side to side. So how many times did you have to find your breath? It's not about the amount of times. It's about the recognition and the awareness that you need to find your breath. Coming back to the breath. Let's bring our hands to prayer. Bring the thumbs to your sternum at heart center. Bow your head. Here's a little prayer to end our session. May the pure light of bodhicitta dawn in each and every heart and mind, expelling the darkness of suffering and confusion, unstoppable until all are fully illuminated. That's a prayer I learned way back in the day, and it's stuck with me ever since. May all beings be free from suffering, confusion, attachment, ignorance. Yeah, what a better world we would have. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for meditating, sitting with me. Take care.